Hey, welcome to 200. Hey, take two. Hey, welcome to episode 211 of Aqually Awesome Podcast. Time, time to rise. With that intro, my thoughts got ahead of my words and, and create a bit of confusion. So, welcome to episode 211, Time to Rise. This episode has got me thinking about. I love being appreciative of life and savoring and savoring everything and telling people thank you and all that. Because the more I can savor life, the more I can enjoy it, and I just love expressing appreciation to people. But in this episode has gotten me thinking that I can expand that level of appreciation even more, because I often eat a meal thinking it's great and being thankful for it, but not being as thankful as I maybe could be. And today's guests make me think of how for all the food that currently comes into our lives, there's a long tradition of cooking and baking, and it has me also thinking about the farmers and all the people who work the fields and just about all of it, and the thoughts made me grateful, and also made me appreciate the expanse of life that sustains me and sustains all of us. So with that, I could keep philosophizing, but I want to bring on my two amazing guests, and I'll tell you more about them. But before that, this.
Today's guest, Stacey and Connor McMahan.
So welcome back. Let me tell you a little more about Stacey and Connor. I'm proud to admit that my inspiration to have them on came through my stomach. And not in a trust my gut sort of way, but in a yummy in my tummy sort of way. More on that in a minute. First, some background. Connor McMahan is Stacey's son. Connor grew up watching his mom and dad bake bread together, and they weren't baking bread to fill bakery shelves, where they wanted fresh and healthy food for the kids to eat. Little did they know they were planting the seeds of brilliance in the precocious son. Back to my mouth-watering story. A handful of sandwiches from North End Bakery found their way to my house. North End Bakery just opened several months ago. It's a startup created by the son of my good friend Stacey. That son, of course, is Connor. I figured, I sink my teeth into a sandwich or two and do my best to be impressed. What I didn't expect was to bite into one of the absolute best sandwiches I've ever tasted. I'm excited to talk to Stacey about being a parent and nurturing kids, to talk with Kana about being a son and the lessons he learned growing up, about having a vision to start a small business, and of course, baking amazing bread and crafting a wonderful sandwich. Without further ado, please help me welcome Stacey and Kana. Stacey and Kana.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for being on the Awkwardly Awesome podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us. What a nice
Yeah.
introduction, Jason.
Thank you.
So when I was preparing today for the show, I was going to begin talking to you, Stacey, about baking bread for your family, but then it suddenly occurred to me that you learned to bake bread from somewhere.
I did.
So tell me about learning to bake bread. About how you learned to bake bread.
When I was a kid, my mom was cooking a lot, but my grandma was making Zwieback and Parker House rolls. They're German breads, and it was we'd always have them at the holidays, but we'd just have them kind of throughout the year anyway, and they smelled so good. And I'm, a curious kid, and I want to taste the dough and all of that. So I can't remember exactly how it went, but she probably gave me a wad of dough, and I watched her knead, and she let me knead, and then I know that if I was around and she was making bread, I would just help her.
So Kana, that was your great grandma
Yes.
who taught your mom to bake bread. What are your first memories, Kana, of learning to bake bread?
I think probably something similar. Either making Zwieback for the holidays, or um, uh, making honey and oat bread with my mother. Um, and I think it's less about the mixing of the bread and more about in my memory is the smell of the finished product, and that being significant to me.
What so often with store-bought bread, we don't think of the smell being a huge part of the experience. But what do you remember about the smell of fresh bread?
I mean, now the memory serves a purpose of like an emotional state where it, makes me feel warm and comfortable and comforted by that smell, and makes me remember that time of feeling that way and being home. Um, yeah, it brings emotion, it brings feelings.
Hmm. What inspired you and your husband, Stacey, to bake bread for your family?
We had a thing when Johnny and Connor, so Connor's brother Johnny, were young, that as long as we could, or it made sense to, we would try to have one parent at home all the time. And I think for me, because I'm not a great cook and I don't really enjoy cooking, but I really enjoyed baking. And so baking the bread was just a way to provide something wholesome and really good for the family. Plus, it was a tradition, and I had the time to do it because I was staying home. And plus, it was less expensive. Not that bread is all that expensive, but if you think of buying a loaf of really well-made craft bread, that is kind of expensive if you're on a tight budget. And homemade bread is so much better than like Wonder Bread,
Oh yeah,
which is
yeah.
what I grew up eating a lot of Wonder Bread. So I was not relishing, I guess, repeating that experience anyway.
Well, when I ask you kind of some of your, like, two of your favorite memories from growing up, what are the first ones that come to mind?
Involving bread specifically, or just of all time?
Just of all time.
I have a hard time with my past memory, but I would say that I had a birthday with a lot of friends over, and I think we borrowed a small pool from a neighbor family, and then my parents usually, I think because of like tight budget, but also just more entertainment, would come up with activities for the kids to do, and one of those activities was shaving cream off of balloons.
Oh gosh,
Um,
sounds tough.
yeah. So I remember that activity and it being really fun and just having a very, very enjoyable, like very kid lighthearted time during that birthday. And a big part of that was because of how my folks treated that experience and just what that was. But
In that experience seemed like it would also teach you maybe a little patience because
yeah, definitely.
Do you have any specific favorite memories involving making bread as a kid?
It I think kneading dough next to my mom on a stool. She would also usually have some sort of step stool or raise platform so she could get more leverage into the dough. But I remember that. I remember kneading dough, and it being just fun to, punch down something and then form it into something else that you get to experience a significant taste and smell and all of that coming forward in that process.
It's amazing. I haven't thought about this for a while. I cook a little bit, but I don't bake much. But kneading dough is really like you say, punching, a pushing down process, and then you get from that process you get this light-hearted bread that rises. It's amazing.
Yeah, pushing something down flat and then in 30 minutes or so it expands double or triple.
What kind of what's it like now seeing that process take place every day when you work at North End Bakery?
It's very different from my bread making in childhood. I don't use very much commercial yeast. So all of that rising process happens kind of behind the scene, really, when I'm not there. Um, it's all sourdough based, which takes a lot longer for that rise time to happen. And um, I do handle the dough, but I don't knead it. I never push it down or smash it. I do as little of that as possible, actually. So it's
He's nicer to his bread.
yes, yeah. It takes a lot of gentle care to make a good product.
So how do you? So are you still kneading the dough you use, or how would you say you handle the dough?
With a lot of care, the so when you're kneading a dough, you're creating gluten structure. And the way that I do that is I fold the dough into itself, which has the same effect. You're instead of smashing it and letting it rise, I'm stretching it and folding it back in, which, like I said, it produces more gluten structure, which is the same as kneading, but it's much gentler. Um, and the reason you want to be more gentle with the dough is so that it creates more air in your finished product.
How did you learn this new way of, or this different way of dealing with bread?
Through a lot of experimenting and practice, I have worked at 2 bakeries as well, and I learned a lot there. And I've read a lot of books, and then have also failed in making a lot of bread.
So it's not like you just made bread once and it worked out perfectly.
No, not at all. I get lucky a lot. I see it as getting lucky, but um, no, I've had a lot of failures in both my culinary experience and baking.
Um, it occurs to me that I'm so glad you got through those. You kept going because the sandwiches I've had from North End have been truly amazing.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So, Stacey, what else about your grandma and about her making bread? Who do you think she learned from?
Oh, I'm sure she learned from her mom. Um, my grandmother had a large crock bowl, and she passed it on to me, and it was from her mother, or she had one similar to it. I guess I can't attest that it's the same crock, but that was it was like a kind of a precious implement in the household. To get the bowl down, you get the bowl down, then you know what's going to happen. You're going to make some bread.
So the crock, of course, is for mixing the dough,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have that crock.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then
Well,
when I was a young mother and homemaking bread and stuff, there was the crock bowl, for mixing, and there was a spoon the spoon.
Oh,
For
that's
making
the
bread.
spoon.
Yeah, the spoon. I think I got it secondhand at a farmer's market or something, but it was the bread spoon. It's actually, it's uneven because I'm very right-handed. So, I'd stir it against the bowl, and I guess we had metal shavings. Who knows? Who knows how that works? But anyway, there's care and wear.
Mm. So the spoon has taken on the history of the bread made with the spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Um. What else about being a mom? Like, as kids can sometimes. I mean, I know intellectually that being a mom is a tremendous amount of work. But I think unless someone's actually a mom, you don't really have any idea how much work it is. What else about being a mom?
Well, I mean, it may be a lot of work. I think when we do things that we love doing and we're passionate about the things that we do, hard is okay. Or, it's just something you do. And kids, it's not that raising kids is hard. There's difficult moments, in the whole thing, like when, I don't know, at the grocery store when there's a fit, or or I don't know, everybody's unhappy or sick, or those kinds of things. Those are the more difficult times, but there's always so much joy too.
Hmm.
I think, I mentioned Zwieback, which it's a German roll that's Zweibach. So it's twice baked, but there's actually two buns to it, a top knot and then a smaller lower portion. And you have to use your hand to squeeze out a ball of dough, and then you put it on the pan, and then you squeeze out a smaller one and you put it on top of that one. And so, it probably took the kids a while to get the hang of that. So we were making a lot of ugly bread for a while, but it's sort of like, it's the sausage making of anything that you do. There's just a part of that that's messy. And I think that's also, the way our lives are. We figure out how to do something, and while we're figuring it out, or early on, it doesn't necessarily turn out as like we think it will, or as pretty as we think it should be. But that's life. And I think raising a family is it's a messy, joyful business.
It's a messy, joyful business.
It's a messy, joyful time. Yeah.
As you talk about ugly bread, it occurs to me that ugly bread might still taste pretty good.
Yeah, it did.
So sometimes I think we get so frustrated when something's not perfect that we forget what it is. That we forget that there's still substance there, and it still can bring so much joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And bread's really forgiving anyway, I suppose, in that way. Even if it's, you mess some things up, it generally has a pretty good taste to it.
That's neat. Kana, as And North End, how many days a week are you open?
We're open 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday.
And there's a lot of pressure in the restaurant cafe industry to get everything perfect for the customer, right?
Yeah, I do think it depends on who is making it or how the um, restaurant or kitchen is ran. But yes, I would say definitely a lot of small business owners, or all of them, strive for that kind of perfection.
So how do you deal with that on a daily basis? Because I mean, in anything, mistakes do happen.
Um, I learned in my first kitchen job from a cook I worked with. I made a mistake first time working on the line is what it's called. I was on salad station and I dropped a flatbread on the ground, which then if you're working a service, if you mess up something that you're making for a table, now anything that item was going with has to be set back for that item to be finished. So if that flatbread is going with other hot items, then it's just more time that those other hot items either have to sit and wait, and then potentially, makes them imperfect. So I had a moment of panic, and I was brought aside and spoken to somewhat sternly. That I either um, forget about that mistake and move on and do the next thing without making the same mistake again, or I should probably not cook anymore. Um,
That was pretty stark to
yeah.
your option, yeah.
Yes, yeah, kind of an ultimatum, but he also, this man also gave me some time. He said, like, take a minute or two to gather yourself and then come back into it and just be more focused about more meaningful about what you're doing in your actions. So I've taken that in, or tried to take it in every job I've had, and as well as at North End. And if I make a mistake, that's just, if I can't fix it, and if it's not fixable, then I have to usually throw it away and move on. And that's just how it works. Is if you get stuck on all of those mistakes, you usually make more of them, and it takes more of your time and energy to then think about them. If you just stay in that mindset of, oh, I've failed, and I made a mistake.
So dwelling on mistakes makes things more inefficient and slow things down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it slows me down if I get stuck thinking about my mistakes. Then I don't have enough room for other things that I need to be thinking about. So I just have to move on. And I'm not perfect. Sometimes I do get stuck on those mistakes, and it's hard for me to get out of it. But
That's so well said. If we get stuck on mistakes, there's not enough room for other things. That's really well said.
that's how it feels.
Stacey, I didn't say this in the bio, but you're an architect.
Mm-hmm.
How do architects in general relate to how do mistakes flow in and out of architecture on a daily basis, and how do you kind of course correct when you make one?
Mm. Um, We do, so in an architecture office, you're doing a lot of different things at the same time to distill information down to what you eventually give to a contractor to build. And there's room for mistakes all along the way until you issue documents to a contractor and then they take it and build it. Those documents are never perfect, so there's mistakes in there too, but we try to reduce those as much as possible. The daily process, it's not mistakes as much as it is ideas that are down. You put ideas down on paper in different ways or in images. Like you can do it electronically, or you can do it by hand, or you can make corrections. One, we call it redlining. So we'll take a red pencil and we'll make corrections and then give it to the person who, produced the work and say, how about if we adjust these things and, make these changes. And then that's the process of refinement. So that would be one example.
So it sounds like in architecture you need to learn not to cling to ideas sometimes, but to go with different perspectives and move forward towards the idea that's most workable.
Yeah. That's there's a million ideas in a building or something. It doesn't have to be a building, just something you're designing. There's a million ideas, and the better ones rise to the top and they work better. And then in architecture, it's also about, well, can you build it, and can the client afford it, and is it what they need, and things like that. But the best ideas do usually rise to the top and make it into design work, and then eventually what's built. And if not, you hope that they're close to that.
Was there a point in your career where you really had to learn not to cling to your ideas?
Yeah. Especially, there's still some of that, but especially early on, when people come out of school with an architecture degree, or maybe it's interior design or something like that, and they're very idealistic about the way things should be, or what they want to do. The ownership there's so much me, myself, and I that happens. I call it I-my. It's the I-my syndrome, and this is mine, my work, my drawings. I want it to be this way, when that's all, I talk about it to the students. I say, you got to drop the I-my. This isn't about you as an individual. This is about a project and, figuring it out as a team to serve the client. So it's a little different with the bakery, because Connor is the guy. He's the I, and it is his because he's the one that's doing it.
So a few questions, kind of like there's a million ways speaking about the ideas, there's a million ways that a person could make a sandwich. And I've made sandwiches in a lot of mediocre ways in my life. How do you take all the ideas in your head and come up with like really amazing sandwiches?
Some of them are just pulled from a concept. Other sandwiches are traditional that then I take a an avenue of that's not original. Well, sorry, that is original to me, not necessarily to the sandwich. For instance, the muffaletta is a very classic New Orleans style sandwich, but I put it on a different kind of bread, and I put arugula on it, and there's some other components that are different. Um,
Say more. Say more.
um, so and then the antipasto sandwiches, that's an Italian salad. That's not even a sandwich, But I looked at I looked at 100 different ways to make an antipasto salad, and I took components of that and then made them my own and then put them onto a sandwich. So it comes from traditional ways of viewing food in a way that then I take and redirect into sandwiches.
Fascinating. Stacey also mentioned having a team to bounce ideas off of and a team to create. As a small business owner, you're really the center of your team. How have you found support in something as challenging as starting a small business? First of all, is starting a small business challenging, or is it just a cakewalk?
It's mostly challenging. Yeah. Not so much cakewalking, but it's very rewarding. I have early on and continually get a lot of support from my parents and my brother and his wife, so close family, as well as my partner Kat. She gives me a lot of support, and as far as building the menu or coming up with new menu ideas, that so far as I think it's all been out of my brain, which is fine. That's part of the process that I do enjoy. Sometimes it becomes stressful when there's so many other things that I have to focus on and get done and come up with specials for the next week or 2 weeks out. But so far, no one's been upset that I have a special or don't have a special.
So say a little bit more about that, please, about being creative and then at the same time having all this other stuff to do. How do you create space for both?
I usually, during tasks that I've done 100 times now, is when I start wandering into what's next, for the menu or for bread production, or do I want to make this kind of scone next week or that kind of cookie, trying to also develop what's next for the business and different ways that I can bring people in or people back in to keep customer base and keep people interested. But it's I try and keep as much of that process and thinking at work and bring as little of it home. Unfortunately, I'm there for most of my day, so I have time to think about that. But yeah, it's usually it's not during downtime. It's just during activities that I don't need a lot of mental focus on. So it could be chopping up a bunch of vegetables or shaping dough is something that I take some time to think about my next menu items and steps.
Would you say some of those routine culinary activities have it all being meditative almost?
Um, yes, but if you're doing something with really sharp knives, you can only be distracted so much. Um,
That's a good call.
yeah, I've been doing it for long enough that I'm pretty confident in those skills that I can afford to be distracted. But a lot of it comes when I'm doing bread production and the sandwich making part, because I want and have a high attention to that detail, and I want my sandwiches to be not only consistently made but also, I mean, delicious. So I put a lot of my energy and focus throughout my day into kitchen service to make sure that those products are good.
So bread, I love it when you do bread production. It literally gives rise to new ideas for your business.
Ah, good one.
Yes.
So it's interesting thinking about your two crafts because from the start of bread production to a finished sandwich is it all takes place within a day, right?
Um, the bread production is a 2-day process.
Oh, so with from the start of bread production to sandwich, it takes 3 days in all.
Yeah, I mean, so there's, I don't think I have anything that I do consistently that takes longer than 2 days. If I made a roast beef sandwich as a special, and that beef took three, yeah, I think it was 3 days.
Hmm.
So some things have to be planned out pretty far ahead as far as production goes. But
Versus for you, Stacey, how long is it on average from a of planning, beginning talks with a owner to a finished building?
No, it varies a lot. It varies with the size of the project. But if you would take like a medium sized project, so not a residence, not a little remodel project, but maybe, say it's like a $5 million project or something like that. It can go really fast, like a year. Or
So 1 year is really fast.
when, yeah, that would be a quick time frame for design and construction. That's probably a little too quick for a project that size. Might be a year and a half. But then, I mean, if the funding isn't there and there's fundraising that has to happen, and or a lot of design iterations, then it might take. I mean, I've had projects take up to 7 years. One took
You
10
said
years.
7 years?
Hmm. Yeah, another one that I can think of took 10 years, but it was because of fundraising.
What's it like having such delay professional gratification? I mean,
Oh, it feels really good when the project is done. And then you look back and it's like, wow, did we start this 7 years ago? Oh, we did. Look at the number that we have on it. And yeah, it's very gratifying because there's so many ingredients, so to speak, that go into the finished product.
well, So having a building rise takes a lot longer than having bread rise. That was a corny thing to say, but
But you're right, it does.
It's true.
thanks for.
We'll back you up on that one.
Have there been things in your life, Connor, that have taken a long time to rise, if you will?
Yeah, I think probably starting a business is the longest. My first kind of idea draft of that was before I started talking to people about it before 2018, but my first business plan was 2018.
How much before 2018 had you been thinking about this? What do you say?
I don't know. It probably came off and on. I've been in culinary since I think 2009. And I didn't kind of discover sourdough bread, I want to say, until 2011. Maybe, no, I think it was later than that. But I used to work at a coffee shop called Black Sheep, and the owner of that coffee shop has now moved it to The Source, which is in the same building as North End Bakery. And there are repeating customers from my time working at Black Sheep that still come in to get coffee. And a couple of these people have said, like, oh, you did it. You opened your own business.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember talking to those people about it when I was 20 and 21, but evidently I was talking about opening my own business back then.
What is it like to get that kind of acknowledgement from someone you've known for a long time?
I don't know. I'm not very good at hearing it. I hear it and I kind of, say, yeah, it happened, and thanks for your encouragement. And then I just kind of move on. My partner Kat's very good at like reminding me to remember those things, that acknowledgement, or remember, words of gratification that come to me about what I'm doing, because I'm not good at keeping those things stored away.
So how long have you been in business now?
It was 5 months, the last 23rd. So October 23rd would have been 5 months.
So a dream you started having in the 2010s has been open 5 months, and this dream isn't just bringing you joy, but bringing all your customers, including me, joy. What is that like to literally be feeding people in your business?
It's cool. I think the only time that it really resonates with me that I'm bringing someone joy is when it's a child who really loves a product that I make. I don't know why that is, but again, to bring up The Source, the owner, Kristen, has a daughter, and I guess that when they go out to eat, if there's bread, she won't eat it, and she'll say, "It's not Connor's bread. I'm not going to eat it."
Oh,
That's really sweet.
Yes, and I've heard that from another gal who I used to work with and who now frequents the building and my bakery, that her kids feel the same way about my bread. Is that she's never seen her kids eat bread so fast. So I don't know why, but those, when it comes with children enjoying products that I make, that's what I remember the most and take to heart.
I love that you are creating young bread snobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's just really beautiful to be able to give kids a sense of, whoa, there's there's quality products out there. There's things that taste really good out there. It's amazing to have that product in a kid's life.
Yeah. That's been enjoyable.
Speaking of quality, Stacey, what's it like when you drive past a building you've worked with your team to design?
Yeah, I'm always wondering, like, how is the building doing? You know, are there any parts that are not feeling very good, or, you know, how is it being used? Is it, what's working well or what's not? So I'm always kind of thinking about the life of a building and what might be going on. Each project is very different. So it's always a different circumstance, but there is also gratification just knowing that you're involved in something that is hopefully contributing to society in some way. And buildings last a long time, so you really need to care about quality and how they're put together.
As an architect, do you come to view buildings kind of as a living organism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much character in each building. So I did describe it that way, didn't I?
Yeah. It was a really neat way of thinking about. You've built some buildings. Why can I think of the name of it on 10th Street? Off 10th Street. It's the shelter for.
Oh yeah, the Children's Home Society shelter.
Yeah,
for family
that's
safety.
why I just couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
So Children's Home Society. Will you describe what it does and then what it feels like designing a building with such a purpose?
It's a domestic violence shelter. So their guests or clients are women, children, sometimes men, and it is a shelter. So I'm glad they're using that in the title, sheltering people who are seeking help in really difficult situations. And so there's a lot of trauma going on at a building like that. And in designing it, we were trying to think of what would be the experience of someone who is going through that, and what are some things that, here again, it's like a living thing. What can the building do for this person to help ease their trauma or how they're feeling?
What a question. What can a building do to help ease trauma? Wow. What a question.
And so that, and then as you're designing, making the million decisions that go into a building, that's always kind of you try to keep that at the center of the conversation. What what about this decision is taking into account the people that come through there, either have to work there in very stressful situations or that are coming from stressful, traumatic situations seeking help. So things like natural light, where the days are getting short, we're into winter and we're all really feeling it, right? Or I guess we're in fall, but with the shortened days and less sunlight and another overcast day and stuff like that. So sunshine really brightens up our world, and so that was a big part of it. And not anytime, I guess, but so many times when we see art, there's an emotional reaction to it. And so there's artwork throughout the facility. And in the way that we did the finishes and the textures and the sights of the place, I guess we tried to keep that in mind as well.
Wow. Well, so much goes into design, and it's just amazing. And kind of, as I said in the intro, when I first tasted your sandwich, I'm like, a lot went into this design. I could just taste that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot goes into it.
I mean, Connor, on an average sandwich, how many ingredients do you have? It's like a Dagwood sandwich, only it's like a symphony of flavors. His sandwiches. He's being really modest.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I try and keep it. Something I learned working for Bread and Circus, working for Jordan Taylor, and it's a sandwich shop, right? But he kind of drove the idea of having a more limited amount of ingredients on your sandwich to make it easier for someone to come in and work for you and build that sandwich, make it, not necessarily simple, but limit the amount so it's not as complicated to build that sandwich. And I think that there's a lot of value in that, in that way of taking that, but I don't have any employees really that help me with this. So I put as much as I want on any of my sandwiches, but the seasonal veggie is my favorite, and it definitely has the most ingredients, the most components to the sandwich, and it's a part of why it's my favorite. But texturally, it's really enjoyable.
A few more quick questions, but what do you if you had to sum it up, what would you say you most love about being a baker and a cook and owning your own business, kind
of? Well, no one can tell me no, and that's been pretty enjoyable. So if I have an idea, I can just try it. I can just do it. If it's whether that's coming up with a new recipe for bread, or creating a new sandwich with a lot of depth to it, or creating a more efficient system in my kitchen, or how something operates in the kitchen, moving my equipment around to make things, because I think about that and how how things can improve and get better and be more efficient. And I think about it all the time. And I think that you can get into this space of comfortability and you stop thinking about how to make things better or improve them. And I think that happens sometimes. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen for me, but I really try and make that present in my mind throughout my day. And now I can just do those things if I want to. I don't have to ask permissions.
And there's lots of freedom in that.
Yeah.
What do you most love about being an architect, Stacey?
The challenge of it. Every day is different. And there's so many things that are unpredictable. So I just think I have the most interesting job because of that.
It's awesome. So I have one more question for each of you, but first, Connor, how do people find North End Bakery?
You can find us by a Google search, or we have a website as well, or you can find us at North End Bakery Sioux Falls on Instagram or North End Bakery Deli on Facebook.
What's your website name?
North End Bakery and Deli. I might have to look that up actually.
So we're kind of looking. Stacey, I ask all my guests this, and they all have different responses. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
I think it means not being afraid of making mistakes, not being afraid of trying things a different way or new, being while you're being not afraid, also being brave about just putting yourself out there, as you are. And that's been a hard lesson for me. I don't know. I'm up there a ways, right? All the gray hair and everything. And I feel like I'm more myself now than I ever have been.
That sounds very rewarding. Like being more yourself now than you ever have been. That sounds really like a nice place to be.
Feels good.
So Connor, what's your website name?
So it's www.northandbakery.com. Yep.
And what Connor, what does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
Imperfect best, I think that it's the understanding that you know you won't be perfect, and accepting that and trying to strive for whatever that best is that you've set for yourself, regardless of your imperfections. I think that works.
Is speaking of perfect, imperfect, is that the web address?
Yeah.
Cool. Really great to have you both on, and I could talk to you both for another few hours about the intersections of architecture and baking and about family and about everything, but we only have an hour and we've now gone over the hour, so thank you both, Stacey and Connor.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Oh, so interesting. I love this job so much. Just getting to find out from people about what makes a life special and how they contribute, and I have new perspectives on the art of baking and new perspectives on architecture now, and it's just so fun exploring and thanks for tuning in too, and I hope all these explorations make you appreciate something about your own life that maybe you've taken for granted, and also help you appreciate what other people do. Tune in next week for another great episode of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast, and thanks for being you, and leave comments if you want, and in the outro, which is here. And smile.